Israeli forces rescue 4 hostages that were taken on October 7th from an apartment complex in central Gaza. Because the action portion of this video isn't very long, I'll play it through and then we'll play it back and talk about some tactics that were used. Now, if we go back to the beginning portion where the operators are making it up the stairs and they are arriving at this door, it's not uncommon for Israel to put out their videos where the sequence of events are actually out of order. So something that happened after they actually place before, or something that happened before they actually place after. And I think that's what happened in this situation here. What it shows in the video is the shotgun breach at the door, which I believe is probably a shotgun, happening at the door, and then the window guy getting to the window, giving commands, and then it clips to them making entry. I'm going to play it again so you can hear it, but if you listen at the end of the operator at the window saying go in, you'll hear a bang, which I think is the breach happening actually on this door in that particular order. Play it one more time so you can hear it again. I believe that that is probably the breach actually happening in that moment. So if we go back and we look at this officer's approach, or operator's approach, whichever one it might be, I think they were actually officers and some type of operators intermingled. You see at the window here, there is black soot that is to the left of the window on the wall. That's an indication that they use some type of charge, probably a bang pole with a flashbang on there or a diversionary device, so they can not stand in front of the window when they do this, and if it's done correctly, it happens very quickly. They move up, they bang this window or breach this window, and what is supposed to happen, which seems like what happened here, is the majority of the window gets cleared instantaneously, and that's also indicated by the damage to the lower left of the frame and the fact that there is nothing left of the window. If they were using some type of mechanical tool, you would expect to see some portion of the window at least still standing there. So what I believe happened in the sequence of events was they moved up, they banged and ported this window. This operator checked center of the window and he starts to make his approach, do his assessment of inside the room, and kind of gives the orders to the operator at the door to go ahead and go in and start his breaching movement. If we play just a little bit forward, you will see a silhouette on the back side of the apartment. And as the operator gets closer, the silhouette kind of disappears. I thought maybe this could be a hostage, or this could be a terrorist, or maybe just an innocent civilian of some sort. But I actually think that that is more than likely another operator on the back side of the apartment. If you play the video back at a certain portion in there, you'll hear a voice yell out. I don't speak the language, so I don't know what he's saying, but it sounds like a command, and it sounds like that command comes from the back of the apartment. And also, if you look below, just above the window sill, right here as it comes up, that's probably the optic of an operator. So that's kind of just more evidence that I think that is probably an operator. Don't know for sure, but that could be the case. So as we play the video forward, this operator is able to get up to the window, check left, check right, check immediately in front of him, sees that there's an opening, major threat area, and he can basically say that this entire room is pretty much clear, except for the immediate area to the right. There's some other dead space and things like that, but if nobody's shooting at you from inside this room at this point, we're feeling pretty good that there's probably nobody in here. So as we go forward, you'll see that this operator who's up front, that's his helmet. So if we play it back, you'll kind of get a good idea of where he's looking when they decide to make entry. And it appears that the door, you can see the door to the left there, is not quite all the way open. Maybe it was impeded, maybe it couldn't come all the way open, or he just got in there fast enough to where the door didn't have enough time to fully open. And his head appears, at least initially, to be forward, so maybe he's checking directly in front of him. And then his next concern is essentially that hard corner to the right where nobody has really looked yet. And so we can tell by his flashlight right here that he has basically scanned this area. Now, we're just kind of doing primary searches. We're not searching under, couches or anything else at this point. We're just trying to find bodies that are obvious and in the open. And so he doesn't see that and continues to push forward. Now, typically, what happens here is if this first guy goes straight, the guy behind him is supposed to go to the right, and that doesn't happen. And there's a couple reasons why it probably doesn't happen. The first one, possibly, is that there's somebody holding at the window and is still looking into this space. I've compared this operator's camera and his gun to the operator's gun at the window, and this operator could be the same operator. It's just hard to tell. If they're all running the same guns with the same yellow tape up by their muzzle, then there's really no way to know. But it looks like there could be another flashlight that is coming off of holding coverage as this operator is moving. I think that if it was a flashlight, though, it would be brighter, like this operator up front, so it would be more distinctive. And this could be a reflection of some sort, because it is kind of moving as the other operator's light is moving at the same speed. So that could just be a reflection off of the wall and nobody's actually holding there. But the operator behind him could be thinking, well, if there is somebody at the window, there's no reason for me to cross in front of his muzzle as he's covering this direction, so maybe he doesn't go that way. The other reason that it probably doesn't happen is because directly to the right, as they're coming in here, there's a couch, which is different than the typical training environment where there's really nothing in there and we're able to complete these movements that we're taught to make. So it impedes him to do that, and by the time he even could make that move to the right to start covering to the left, this operator is basically taking off. Like he's going immediately to this next threat area, which is the most important area to probably check off on next because it's the next, appears to be the smallest portion of the house. Typically, if we're going to start clearing one way and holding another way, we'd like to shore up the short side first before overcommitting to a longer portion of a residence or a building, because if we can knock out the things that are directly in front of us or behind us, that's something that we don't have to worry about, rather than going to the left here and getting ourselves involved in a bunch of rooms and things like that, and then having to worry also about what might be behind us. So I think that this operator that is number 2 kind of got caught off guard on what the number 1 operator was going to do, because there's about a 5-foot gap at least that this operator behind him has to make up for. So essentially, and it does look like on the very last frame that operator actually goes into this space basically by himself. Now, what is that supposed to look like when we do this in training? Well, when we enter spaces with one another, we should be basically right on top of each other, and that should be happening simultaneously. And that doesn't happen here. The number 1 operator just quickly, I'll just let it play, quickly checks off on that left side. He couldn't really have seen or addressed anything or made a, decision in that moment, in that time frame, to determine if there was something there or not. So he's just kind of checking off on it and then moving into this next open space. If we're going to do this kind of in a traditional way, like they would expect you to do if you were showing somebody that you were proficient at CQB, is this first guy would go straight, establish a position of domination. The next guy would be going to the right, looking long, and then from there they might release these threats to one another and then decide to make entry in one of these spaces. It's quite possible that it's just these 2 individuals here, but you kind of run the risk of somebody sitting down that hallway with a weapon, and he might not get the first guy because he's moving so quickly past that space, but now he knows that these operators are moving, and then he starts to shoot at the operators here. The second operator. I understand that this is hostage rescue and that we should be moving quickly, but I think that if you did this and you said, hey, I know how to do CQB, like, okay, take this room, this is a hostage rescue, you and your buddy, and find the hostage, and you set up and you went, and this is what you did, where you made entry and the 1 and 2 just trained into this next opening with a 5-foot gap, people would say you're crazy and you don't know what you're doing. Now we see a shield on a hostage rescue, which a lot of people would say isn't a valid option. I believe it was 2015. I don't remember the name of the hotel, but there was a Delta Force operator who ultimately needed a shield to be able to get to the terrorist when other operators showed up to get grenades into where the terrorist was as the shield was eating rounds. And it doesn't really make sense if you're in a situation where the terrorist is barricaded at the end of the hallway and you have to move down the hallway, but he is not allowing you to do that because you're taking sustained gunfire. And what isn't going to happen is we're just going to stack bodies into the hallway and march down the hallway through this gunfire and eliminate the terrorists, and everything's going to be fine. It doesn't necessarily make sense to do that, because also if we are just getting ourselves killed and continuing to stack bodies, then we're not actually solving the problem. And so they don't, at least in this video, use it at the beginning, but they have it with them just in case they get themselves into a situation where somebody has to be the guy to press forward to be able to get to where the actual terrorist might be. For whatever reason, there's a lot of highly trained people that are big proponents of not having a shield, and it would be nice to have one, certainly, in a situation just like that. Initially, when I watched this a couple times, I thought that these blurred images were terrorists that were egressing and they were engaging them as they were leaving. But the video that I'm going to show you next basically shows that this is the actual hostages. They have vests on, and you can tell by the color of their gym shorts. This is the actual video of them escorting the hostages to the helicopter. This, I believe, is one of the hostages. 3 were in one location. I think one of the hostages was in another location. I believe that this female is going to be one of the hostages that, I don't want to use the word viral, if that's the incorrect word to use here, but well-known hostages that was taken because of the video where she was on the moped and they were taking her away on October 7th, and I'll show you that here in a second.
שלישי איתנו. בדי עולים רק 3. חיובי.
אז תראה, יחסית פשוט, כמו אוטו. בן גוריון, אתה יכול לראות את המסלולים שם ארוכים, המסלולים של נתב"ג. אתם הולכים לתל השומר, אני מניח ששם לכם קבלת פנים. שוף אחד שירחיק את אחד הלוחמים לפנינו, אז אנחנו נחד בתל השומר. כל הכבוד לכם.
This is the photo of the female being taken away on October 7th. I'm going to blur a bunch of things out here. I'm not going to play the video just in case YouTube doesn't like that. If you'd like to subscribe to this channel, you could do that by tapping on this photo. And if you'd like to support this channel and help this channel grow, you can do that by feeding the algorithm down below.